High on Life was, and still is, a game that is so obscure and quirky that it's given Flippin' Fred a run for his money on how fast he can get himself punched in the balls. And during the holidays last year, developer Squatch Games and not Justin Roiland released the newest DLC expansion for this game, that being High on Knife. Following the adventures of the average Twitch viewer, as well as the Cuck Lord of Knives, we journey to the mysterious new world of Peroxis, a land that has recently been to an all-expenses-paid trip to Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria, due to its color palette that represents my deepest desires for candy. And we'll also meet some rather quirky people. This includes YouTube's office workers that are infected with COVID-19 and can't do their jobs properly. Sounds like how it is IRL. As well as Salt Lake City, named after the slugs that like licking salt like it's crystal meth to get so high that it sends them to the Shadowlands. Creatures that look like someone's chode after a night on the town, as well as an evil villain that is part of a collection of questionable pink liquids, perfectly showing that even after Justin Roiland left due to some very sus acts, that his humor still lives on. I last touched on this game over a year ago, in January last year, and now it's time to return to this rather strange treasure of a game and take a look at its DLC. Has this game held up since I last played it over a year ago? And will its DLC prove to be decent or short-lived and not the greatest? It's time to find out. So strap your butts in, get your fountain shoe, and get your pills ready, because it's time to return to the craziest game I've played in the last few years. This is High on Life's DLC, High on Knife. Following the events of High on Life's main story, we pick up the action 2 years after defeating Garmantuous and stopping the G3. Earth is now a safe haven, and everything is pretty chill. Strangely, however, Kenny has been replaced with Harper as our primary gun. Not entirely sure where Kenny went, but hey, I didn't want to listen to Morty in my ears 24/7 anyway. Some other things include that we've been bounty hunting for 2 years, and Jean is still pretty proud of us. That's good to hear. At least someone is actually proud of me. And our sister Lizzie is nowhere to be seen. It's said that she's out making a name for herself, implying two possible outcomes. One, she's attempting to become a Twitch streamer, so new trauma just dropped. Or two, she's becoming an AV actress. And to that I say, at least you're living good. Regardless, this DLC kickstarts with a note on the fridge that details a package that's addressed to Knifey. Through this note, we learn that the package was shipped from the Muxxalon shipping facility on Peroxis, and the sender of the package happened to come from Knifey's homeworld. Thus, Knifey tells us that we need to go to Peroxis and head to the Muxxalon facility to retrieve his package and return to his home planet. But before we head there, there's two things I need to touch on. Firstly, are you subscribed yet? I really hope you are. This channel has been on an absolute roll so far this year, and it's all thanks to you guys. Let's keep it rolling, and that's possible by you subscribing and liking this video. Secondly, I think it's only fair that I do a full recap of the gameplay of High on Life, as well as the new gameplay introduced in its DLC. I'm gonna make this pretty quick and not go into too much detail, so if you want to see this in a bit further detail, check out my original High on Life video in the description below. Although I didn't talk about it much there either. Regardless, let's get straight into it. High on Life's gameplay can be split into two major segments, this being your Gatly and Friends and standard movement. Let's start with standard movements first, as these are the things you're probably going to have going into the DLC, and it's also the smallest part of the segment. Our average Twitch viewer has the ability to hover in the air thanks to his jetpack, and can also power slide across the sand due to Peroxis, so long as we have enough fuel to do so. But don't worry, as running into these green Angry Bird looking mother ducks will replenish your fuel gauge and give you a temporary burst of speed. You also have the ability to crouch. Exciting, I know. But seriously, most of this game's gameplay comes from the Gatlian guns you'll find along your journey. We'll start with Harper. She's your typical handgun that can shoot glob shots out of her trick hole. What the hell is your trick hole anyway? It better not be what I think it is, otherwise I'm gonna be both horny and scared at the same time. Next up is Gus, the fun, lovable frog who just wishes that he was back in Vice City, starting the biggest joint known to man. He behaves much like a shotgun and has two special abilities. This includes shooting metal discs at heated walls, which can allow you to climb up to higher areas, and he's able to do the big suck to anything around him. Boy, does that sound familiar. Sweezy is an accurate version of any 20-year-old tomboy college student ever. She kind of reminds me of the Needler from the Halo franchise, except this is the cooler version. She shoots really fast too, just like the rejection texts, and has the ability to slow down time. That way she can go back and fix the relationship problems with her 6 previous boyfriends. Finally, we have Creature, the lovable dad figure that has 6 of his children strapped into his back like it's some kind of natural occurring fetus on wheels. He can shoot his children and his enemies and make them do all the dirty work while he smiles and waves. If for whatever reason you didn't like children, then I'm happy to tell you that you're gonna hate them even more now. Using Creature's children, you can solve puzzles locked behind force fields and unlock treasures that no other Gatlian can get to. Creature's children can also be used to mind control your enemies, known only as the Minions, and turn the fight against the Gay 3. There is technically 2 more Gatlians that I won't touch on in detail during this segment. The first is Let's Do It, which can only be used during the last section of the base game's campaign, and Ball, a new Gatlian that's exclusive to the High on Knife DLC and can be unlocked in Salt Lake City. We'll touch on him in detail in a little bit. And yes, all Gatlian upgrades are available in the DLC right from the start, as well as any of your purchased upgrades from the base game. With that, I think I've touched on everything major with the gameplay, so it's now time to head through the portal to the Bounty 5K and head to Peroxis to find Knifey's package. I just hope that it's not one of those jump scare music boxes, and it better not have a knife attached to it. Either that, or a cute girl. I wouldn't know how to react to that, and that's both the scary and sad part. Welcome to Peroxis, the land that helps you imagine what a more colorful version of the Void looks like. You know, in the world that we all live in, that being the amazing digital circus. We're immediately greeted by a slug who starts coughing the COVID-19 virus on me. He tells us about Salt Lake City, Muxxalon HQ, and about how he's definitely not sick at all. I'm a little sussed out. He tells us that in order to get to Muxxalon HQ, we need to go to the Duffalo Ranch, which happens to be a few islands over. So our first task is to head to Salt Lake City and ask the locals for more information on how to get to both the shipping facility and the Duffalo Ranch. Some mild forms of combat ensue on the trip there, because a human is about to roll up on a city of slugs, and the remnants of the Gay 3 feel the need to administer some justice before we get there. Upon arriving into the City of Slow Missionaries, otherwise known as Utah, we meet a guy who wants to play a makeshift version of Magic the Gathering, and tells us to acquire some cards to play with him. I don't want to become a bigger loser than I already am, so I'm gonna pass on that one, Chief. This guy sounds like his balls just shriveled back into his anus, and gives us some postcards to visit some fun places around Peroxis. He's actually pretty chill, given his balls are gone.
Ooh, I gotta try that. Seen the big rocks, I mean. I've done kissing before. It rolls. I'm like, I love it.
Wish I could say the same thing, Harper. Wish I could. Moments later, we get introduced to our new Gatlian friend, Ball, which comes on the house with 3 members from the Blue Man group, doing sexy poses on my gun to tell me that, hey, you wish you had this. This gun is pretty cool, as it shoots 1 ball that can be rapid-fire chained by timing your shots when the radical on your screen is green. Chain it enough times and it will grow in heat and explode. You can also charge it up and shoot it in one go, and blow up a large group of enemies in quick succession. Ball also has a special ability that puts down a bumper spring that will bounce the ball in random directions. Sounds like something ripped straight out of Sonic 2. And after playing a game of Peroxo Squash, I've come to realize that this weapon is really fun to use, and you're going to be seeing it a lot in this video. Also, I guess Gene just shadow dropped that we dropped Kenny at some point, and that's how we ended up finding Harper. Kinda sounds like we pulled the dad left to get milk bit on Kenny, and that's funny. After doing a little bit of wall riding and stabbing some people that pissed me off, we eventually arrive at Toxo's pond. Toxo is a pretty chill dude, so at least the townsfolk of Utah were correct. They did forget to mention one part though, that this mother duck is a literal ugly bastard and makes the player do several chores before he gets you to the next island. This includes drowning yourself in his pond of electrified piss and dealing with the many parasites on his body. I hope you like going into the set of a bar filmed in front of a live studio audience that happens to be behind his ass. Literally.
Oh!
Dude! What the fuck? Welcome to Cheers, where every single man goes to cry for several hours before smoking more hopium and moving on with their day. After drinking some alcohol, we return to Toxo and he throws us to the next island over. It's here that we meet a new friend, Duffalos. They literally, and I can't believe I'm about to say this, they're just shonen balls but with a face.
Holy fuck.
I'm gonna have nightmares for weeks. Why does it have booba? We speak to the rancher to learn that he thinks that we're poachers and are here to kill his Duffalo. Well, I mean, I do kind of want to, but instead of actually killing the Duffalo, we're gonna kill the actual poachers instead. The poacher was a human. Well, that was underwhelming. He does give us a genuinely good idea on how to get to the Muxxalon HQ by getting inside a Duffalo and having the Duffalo force us there. So with the plan in sight, we slowly make our way back to the Duffalo Ranch and do some legal confiscation in order to use a Duffalo's anus. We gotta smell the shit that's inside this Duffalo because we're the only ones with a nose. Really good thinking, game. Suddenly, a parasite appears and tries to force us out of the Duffalo simply because, much like me, he's an incel who doesn't want to be near women. And when he does get near women, he dies of cringe and anxiety. We, for some reason, become a doctor and give him a diagnosis that we then lie about, but ultimately, he kicks us out of the Duffalo at a loading dock at Muxxalon HQ. All of the lights go out shortly after, and we see that questionable pink liquid that I mentioned earlier. I'd like to welcome everyone to the horror section of the game. Better get your blankies and popcorn in order, because this is about to get fun real quick. After exploring what should be Jeffrey Bezos' warehouse of doom, we find an employee named Stelson who warns us of a powerful entity that has killed everyone in the facility. But given that we are Dog the Bounty Hunter, this is no problem for us. And let's be frank, do you really think I'm just gonna say no? Thus begins... Yes, this is the real boss fight. Welcome to the first boss of the game. It's also the shortest, in which it just involves you breaking boxes. If you do it quick enough, you'll get praise from Boxman. And if you do it too slow, Moist Critical will gladly show you how it's done.
Oh my god, I need to go hide! Save yourself! Hello?
Hello?
Stelson? Anyone?
I think there's someone in here with us.
Holy shit, it's Markiplier! Meet Mux, the main villain of this DLC. She's basically a jelly monster who runs the entire Muxxalon facility. So because we busted in and dealt with the box boss from like 30 seconds ago, she's now gonna make us work for her. That parasite from a few minutes ago is now corrupting us into being his puppet. Gee, I wonder if he can get me a 6-pack of Sapporo right now. I could kill for some one of those. Welcome to Amazon Worker Simulator, featuring your host, GLaDOS.
Hello.
Turns out they're trafficking humans, so now the gay 3 need to be stopped once again. I told those minions that the humans weren't toys. Drew better stop them, or I'm going to print an image of Keanu Reeves and send them to Night City whilst telling them to check this out. We do end up getting Knifey's package here thanks to Stelson, and Knifey gets upgraded to become a chainsaw. Holy fuck, that's actually kind of cool. With the ability to now swim through and cut up the pink goop, we put it to use by dismembering several minions. By the way, this is a great way to tell you that you should subscribe. Otherwise, you're gonna meet Knifey in your bedroom later tonight. And it's not gonna be a good first meeting either. We destroy an organ of Mux and confirm that each of her organs helps her understand something important. This particular organ helps her understand numbers, thank God. That way she can't figure out how many children I've murdered in this game so far. The main objective from here is to destroy all of Mux's major organs, while dealing with the occasional attack from the gay 3. One such organ involves playing a game that feels strangely similar to the Noam Chomsky minigame from Left 4 Dead 2, except it involves boxes and not cardboard cutouts. Wait a minute. We destroy the second organ, this one making sure that Mux can't take a calm piss in about 15 minutes. She also says that her employees can't piss at all either, so not sure how that came about. The admin's office has the codes that may finally help me score my biggest achievement yet, a social life. The bathroom here is also having some issues of pure evil. I don't see the problem, it's just the bidet, and who wouldn't love that? Jean then calls and thinks that we're dead, because we need some form of motivation to keep us going in these trying times. We destroyed the last organ, the one that helped keep Mux's memories of Anne Rand's The Fountainhead. I'm sorry, but what the fuck is that? So now it's time to take the fight to the core itself, which means we gotta fight the pink blob. Welcome to the actual first boss of the game. Technically, it's the last, but the actual last boss is the credits. This fight has got a lot going on, not to mention that it's a 3-phase encounter. This shit just got ripped straight from World of Employee Harassment, and I love it. I'm gonna guess that Classics dev team got a bit quirky with this one, boys. Regardless, let's break it down so that I can share this pain with you. In Phase 1, you'll be running for your life like the little bitch that you are, as Mux is going to carpet bomb you with bullets, her own co-workers, and even goop in quick succession, like she herself is an AR-15 assault rifle. Look for parasites on the walls of the room, as they can drop shield guard potions to replenish your shield. And you're gonna need it, as both the first and second phases boil down to running pretty much forever, and shooting at the boss whenever you can. All of the phases in this fight are actually really slow, so bear this in mind for when you start. Phase 2 starts at 60-ish% HP, where you and Mux will descend into a pit of goop. At least it's not yellow goop. I don't want to deal with the fecal matter of a Fergal right now. In Phase 2, the arena is much smaller, and Mux will pelt you with even more of her co-workers and bullets. So long as you're gathering shield pots frequently, you can basically be invincible throughout this entire fight. And you're gonna want it in this part of the fight in particular, as Mux will constantly appear in different places in the arena to try to catch you off guard. During this phase, upon dealing enough damage to Mux, you'll get the chance to use Knifey and destroy one of her organs. This will go on for a rather long time, practically until her health pool is at around 5%. Once you do get there though, she will ascend into the sky above the arena, and Knifey will tell you to follow her. What you then see is, allegedly, Mux's brain, and TLDR, you're gonna stab it really hard.
I don't give a fuck, bitch! How's that the capital punch? What the fuck? Shit, you did it!
We head downstairs to find Stelson, who has now become the CEO of Muxxalon. Bit of a sudden promotion, but hey, at least you don't have to work, just like Elon Musk. After experiencing the typical day in the gaming industry thanks to layoffs, we then track Knifey's package and head to his homeworld. Welcome to Australia too, because Australia is such a big deal that if you don't include it in a video game, then you're gonna get investigated by friendly Geordies. It turns out, and get ready for this, Knifey was exiled in the past, and his original family and his entire species completely hates him. Sounds rough. The remainder of his kind are leaving Australia too during some event known as the Great Sharpening, and whilst doing so, they explain that knives are somehow meant to be a peaceful race. Yeah, right, I'm gonna believe that, Sherlock. So we then bring the Queen back down from ascending, because long live the king, and we give Knifey some comfort after they hurt his feelings. So basically, we learn that the entire story of this DLC was about family after all. Dominic Toretto would be proud. So we murder the Queen and then ascend ourselves, and proceed to kill everything in sight. And I mean everything in sight. Also, this credit scene is a minigame of its own, by the way, because you get scored for it. So make sure you play the game during the credit scene, loser. Now that we've completed the game, that pretty much wraps up the DLC. From here, you can revisit Peroxis to visit any places you may not have visited, or chase down some of the collectibles found around the map. This mostly includes Muxxalon boxes and those playing cards from earlier. So with all that being said, what are my final thoughts on High on Life's DLC expansion, High on Knife? And honestly, it's kind of hard for me to answer. The story is decent at its best. It does feel fairly basic, without really having a soul or an identity. I can kind of say the same thing about the base game to some extent as well. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, given that DLCs for most games generally have a scaled down version of what the original game presented. However, High on Knife's presentation just felt lackluster. It didn't really feel like there was a story, whereas in the base game, there was a genuine story with Garmantuous and the G3. Here, it doesn't exactly feel like this. The gameplay and the world all feel the same as the base game. I do love the look of Peroxis, but even then, it's not different enough to make me feel like it's something unique. The puzzles, the gameplay, and the world all feel the same. And I'm not saying that I wanted something bigger out of this DLC, but making it stand out more from its base game counterpart would have been nice. And the fact that this DLC only took less than 3 hours to complete, it's shorter than I expected. Now, let's be fair. The base game of High on Life only took around 10 hours to play through, so I wasn't expecting something massively long, but 3 hours just doesn't necessarily feel right. Even so, this DLC delivered an experience that I did find enjoyable and fun, and is a fun addition to the game that helps expand characters that are already established in the base game. But there are some unanswered questions. Where did Kenny end up? Where did Lizzie go, and what is she doing now? Why isn't Knifey's homeworld a selectable option to visit, and why can't we explore it after completing the story? And most importantly, why isn't Tweak here? Regardless, this DLC does not feel like it deserves the $15 price tag that it has, and it's more comparable to a free content update instead of a paid DLC. So try to get this when it's on sale, and give it a try. It's not long, it doesn't have anything major to gush over, and it definitely passes the test as DLC. And that's pretty much about it. Now, if you'll excuse me, I gotta go wash my eyes out with soap, thanks to all the goop that I digested. My name is PandaPowerSauce, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.